Yep, we're gonna do 2 in a row with no sunglasses. I feel like it doesn't make sense to wear them when it's, misting like this, because no sunglasses are gonna be covered in like 3 seconds flat with water and I won't be able to see anything. And when I do wear the sunglasses, the whole point is so you can see better because it's sunny out. So hey, here's my eyes. I'll tell you who's really seeing better right now are real estate agents that are starting to see that they have no future. That's right, guys. There are a lot of real estate agents that are going to be quitting the business right now because of all these changes. And in case you haven't been paying attention, this past weekend was the big day. August 17th has come and gone, and now everybody has to sign agreements with real estate agents, whether or not you're looking at a house to buy, whether you're a seller, whoever you are. If you're working with an agent, you're signing an agreement now. And I think this is a good thing, and overall for the real estate business, I think it's going to be good for clients in the long run too. And one of the main reasons I think it's actually going to be good for clients is because it's going to push a lot of the non-professional agents out of this business. At least that's what I think is going to happen, because they're not going to want to deal with this. They're not going to want to look at, well, how do I do this agreement? How do I get more clients to be on board with this now? Like, they're just gonna give up because the business was already slowing down tremendously with the lower amount of sales. And now they actually have to convince other people that they're worth something. Those people are going to be gone in a hurry. And what this is probably going to do is probably going to push a lot of the part-time real estate agents out of the business, which is something that probably every pro real estate agent or full-time agent wishes happened a long time ago, because those guys just kind of get in the way. They don't know anything. They don't keep up with best practices. They just poach clients from real hardworking agents, because once in a while they have a family member or an in-law or somebody like that buys, and they kind of just steal that client from other agents. And these agreements will help prevent that from happening, first of all, so those people won't have any more low-hanging fruit to go after anymore. Because if people are going to sign agreements with real estate agents, you better believe they're going to be signing with people they trust. They're going to be signing with professionals, people that they feel are going to be able to get the job done. Not somebody that works at the clothing store down the street during the week and sells real estate here and there. I actually recognized that as an important point when I started my real estate career, and especially because I was young, guys, so I had that working against me. Like, I was only 21 years old when I became a real estate agent, which is very young. And trying to get people who are twice your age or more to trust you with a big transaction is not easy. And one of the best ways I was able to do that and kind of fight against my age is not only because I'm kind of mature for my age, but also because I took it so seriously that I made it my full-time gig. I didn't do anything else. I didn't have a part-time job on the side to try and make extra money. No, nothing like that. I just grinded with real estate 24/7 to get my clients and to get people to trust me. That's it. But a lot of people don't have the grit to do that day in and day out and work 7 days a week for 2 years in a row if you need to in order to make ends meet. And so what they do is they end up having to do other jobs on the side. And I know today things are a little bit different because we didn't have this massive inflation back then and the cost of living wasn't sky high. So today circumstances are a little bit different, and I realize that some people need to take on that extra side job just to be able to get by today, but that wasn't the case back then. And also, this is going to make agents quit who are used to, the large paydays, right? Like the agents that need to get those large paydays to continue to survive are also going to be quitting, because now, especially that the seller no longer needs to offer a commission to the buyer's agent, it leaves the buyer's agents scrambling to make a deal with their clients that is fair for everybody and the buyer's willing to pay for, first of all. But also, even on the selling side, those commissions are going to be lower, and most likely people on the listing agent side aren't going to be getting double commission deals anymore for the most part. So it's reasonable to say that most real estate agents are going to take a pay cut because of this new change. Now, according to one real estate agent they talked to for this story that has 26 listings right now, which is a lot. And if you're not a real estate agent, anybody who has 26 listings is crushing it. But he said that all 26 of his sellers are still going to be offering a buyer's agent commission as of right now, even though it might be lower than before, but they're still offering one. So this is something that I also predicted that I believed would happen. as this change happened. And so far, you are seeing that in many cases. And what you're kind of seeing is the industry standard that was 6% commission, 3% to buyer's agent, 3% to seller's agent, go down by 1 percentage point basically overnight. All the sellers are at least saying, well, I'll pay the buyer, but you're going to get 2.5, and they'll get 2.5. Or maybe the seller's agent will take a little bit more and give less to the buyer's agent now. But what this really does, guys, is it makes agents prove their value. It makes them prove their worth. It's like anybody who's working with them is agreeing to pay them in writing. So you need to convince them, like, why should I pay you? Why are you the person that should get thousands of dollars from me, That easily weeds out the losers. But it's also a good thing at the same time, because now that you have your buyers locked into contracts, you don't have to worry about them disappearing to the part-timer that only does 2 deals a year and steals clients from professionals. Now they're not going to be able to do that anymore because they're signed with you. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of agents, especially the ones that don't do a lot of deals, realize like, oh, the next time I go to show a property, I need to have someone sign this contract, and they're going to be speechless whenever it comes time to explain why this person should actually pay them. They won't have a good answer. And here's the reality, guys. If you come across a real estate agent right now, as of the middle of August in 2024, that can't explain their value or doesn't even know much about this change, already they should be off your list as a potential agent to work with, because clearly they haven't been paying attention, and that just goes to show you that they're really not in the loop of the business, and you should be hiring somebody who is. In fact, there's a little list here that I found of 4 signs you need to get a new real estate agent, and I didn't write these. These are not my original ideas, but I read through them, and they're actually pretty good, and I agree with all of them, so I want to give them to you here. So here's how this whole story came about. This guy that wrote this said that when his mother passed away, him and his brothers had to hire a listing agent to sell her house. And he right away said he knew that they were in trouble when the agent casually remarked that she got into real estate to see and judge strangers' homes. So right away, that's a big red flag, because this is somebody who's not a professional. They're just a looky-loo themselves that want to see everybody else's house and see what everyone else is up to, okay? And despite hearing this, they decided to hire this non-professional anyways, which ended up backfiring. And sometimes people need to go through this, right? Sometimes people need to hire somebody that wasn't good at the job in order to find out where did they go wrong, what did they do wrong, and how can I hire somebody better next time around. Well, that's exactly what happened to this person. Now, first of all, if you're a seller and you want to hire a real estate agent, you should be contacting people in my description. Just kidding, but yeah, you should. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, don't forget I have this. It's a free service, guys. You need an agent, I can hook you up with one. Just the link is down below. It's always there for your convenience. But anyways, if you're looking to hire an agent as a seller, what you need to do is kind of assess how they want to handle the listing. They need to be doing market research. They need to be pointing out some maintenance issues around the house that need to be taken care of before you list the place. They need to be pointing out different things that are going to help get the house sold. We're not even talking about price here. We're not even talking about commission, okay? Somebody who knows how to sell a house is going to be looking at all the things that are wrong with this house that's going to make it harder to sell, and point those things out and try to make you fix those things before listing it, because that's going to make their job easier, and it's going to net you a higher and better price at a faster rate. So it's going to be better for everyone involved if you listen to this advice most of the time. And unfortunately, I actually went through a scenario like this before that ended up being a career turning point for me, which actually pushed me onto doing YouTube and getting out of real estate forever, guys, because I had an expensive listing, okay? And I did this. I went to their house. I said, well, it was a pretty old house, and they had a lot of clutter, a lot of things laying around, and I strongly suggested that they, really got rid of a lot of this stuff, because they were going to move anyways. Their intention was to move and downsize to a different place. I said, well, why don't you just start getting rid of all this stuff now, put some of it in storage if you have to, whatever. Let's clean this house up. You know what I'm saying? Let's make it more appealing to a stranger walking through. They didn't want to do it, right? So on top of not wanting to do that, they also didn't want to take my recommendation on the listing price. They wanted to list it like $200,000 higher than where I wanted to put it. And ultimately, after 6 months that went by, there was no sale. And missing out on that sale meant missing out on, back then, that was probably close to $30,000. It was a big commission, right? And I had spent thousands of dollars to get that listing in marketing. I was heavily marketing to that neighborhood, and I had probably spent at least $4,000 or $5,000 in marketing dollars to get that listing. And I couldn't continue to keep doing that unless I could keep selling listings like that, you know? So I took a chance, I took a risk, and it didn't pay off, unfortunately. Anyways, enough about my story. The thing is, if you have an agent that's giving you good advice besides just the price of the house, you know, giving you the reasonable comps, and also working out showing timelines and availability, things like that, that's a good sign that you have a good listing agent. If you have somebody that right away just wants to discuss price and has no mention of any condition of the property or tips on things that you should be doing to get the house ready, that's a pretty big red flag that all they care about is the money, which everybody's working for the money. Let's not deny that. But, you know, in order to make that money, you need to have things streamlined in a way that makes the sale more likely. Even things like hiring a professional photographer to take listing photos. This is something I always did for higher end listings. I never did it for cheap listings because cheap listings are easy to sell, guys. When you have a place that's like $200,000 or less, or in Miami, really like under $300,000 in many cases, those listings sell all day long. They were very easy to sell, at least they used to be, not anymore, with all the changes that have been happening. So it wasn't really necessary to spend the money as much on marketing those properties, right? But when you have a more expensive listing over $1 million like this one was, you have to spend the money to showcase it, especially when, you know, you're trying to put lipstick on a pig. When you have an old house that's 50, 60 years old with all the person's personal belongings inside, you know, and it already looks bad, the least you can do is to have professional pictures to try and make the place look as good as possible. But then, of course, the problem then is the pictures look better than the listing in real life, you know, which was one of the reasons why I couldn't sell this house. You have a high price, people come in there and they're like, I got to renovate this whole house, and it doesn't show very well. It's dark. They didn't want to open curtains. They didn't want to do anything I said, really. And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have taken the listing, but I did because it was the most expensive listing I ever had, and I was still confident I could sell it, which was overconfidence, and turns out that I couldn't. But the same goes if you're hiring a buyer's agent. You know, you're now signing on the dotted line with buyer's agents today and basically promising to pay them. You know, if the seller's agent isn't offering a commission, you know, your buyer's agent needs to be focusing on important things to you, like the features that you want in the house. They need to be focusing on properties that match your needs. You know, they need to help you navigate financing if you need that. You need to feel confidence in this person more than ever before. Like before, as a buyer, you could just kind of get away with it. Like, all right, this person might not be the greatest, but they're helping me for free and they show up on time. That's not going to be good enough anymore, because now you're committing to pay these people if you have to. So you need to be 110% moving forward that you feel confident in that real estate agent's ability to guide you through the transaction. And if you're not getting that feeling, you need to find somebody else. Here's another sign that you need to either get rid of them or keep them, okay? Communication. You know, when you're going through a transaction, your real estate agent should be in touch regularly. Not maybe every single day, but almost daily, at least several times a week, to update you on what's going on. And so if you're the buyer, for example, then you should be getting regular updates from your agent regarding what's happening with the inspection, what they need to be doing next with financing, things like that. If you're on the selling side, then you should be getting updates from your agent about how many calls we had this week, did anybody express interest in the house, you know, how many showing requests we had, were there any offers, things that maybe we can do to try to expedite the sale. stuff like that. There should always be a conversation going. You know, as a buyer's agent that you're now going to be paying, they can try to help you figure out how to make the most appealing and attractive offer for your market. You know, they should know what's going on and what's working, what's getting offers accepted, like maybe offering a slightly higher offering price, but having these different concessions inside the offer that a lot of sellers are agreeing to that actually is working out in the buyer's favor. They should know those things. But on the other hand, if you're constantly chasing them, if you're leaving messages on their phone and they're not getting back to you, that's a huge red flag, guys. No one's perfect, right? Like when I was doing real estate full time, I used to miss calls, especially when you're with another client, right? You would miss calls because it's rude to answer the phone when you're literally with someone else, right? So those calls I would always dodge and let it go to voicemail. But an hour, maybe 2 hours maximum later, I call them back when I'm finished with that client. Or I'll just text them while I'm busy with the other one and say, hey, I'm at a showing, I'll call you back, so they know. But that's a huge red flag if you are constantly chasing your agent and it takes hours and it takes, you know, half a day or maybe even the whole day or not till the next day that you're always hearing back from them. You can't work with someone like that because number one, they don't value you as a client. Maybe it's just that they're too busy and they already have too much business that they can't handle, which is good for them but bad for you. But also a lot of real estate transactions move quickly. Like when things happen, if someone has a change of heart, you need to be made aware of those changes very quickly in a real estate transaction. And if your agent drops the ball on that communication, that can make the difference between having a closing or not. This next one is a huge red flag and it's the one I've hated the most over the years. I couldn't stand listening to agents that have this poor trait, and that is they are pushy. Yeah. Now usually this applies more to buyer's agents and it goes something like this. You go to see 5 houses and they're literally trying to push you to buy every single house and trying to tell you why each and every house that you just saw is the next best thing since sliced bread. Like the reality is when you go to show somebody a house, you're not there to sell them the house, okay? This how I used to do it, and I always thought this was the best method, was I would show the properties, I would answer any questions about it that I could at the time, and if there's anything I didn't know, I would make a note of it so I could find out for them later, and I would give my opinions when asked. You know, that's it. Or point out things that I would notice, like, hey, you know, you said you wanted this, but it only has that, blah, 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 just to make sure that we're on the same page, just to make sure that they recognize that I know what they want as a buyer, and maybe this listing matches all those traits, and maybe it doesn't. There's actually a really good quote in this story from one of the agents. He goes, a real estate agent is not there to sell you a house. They are there to ensure you buy the right house for you and your family. I like that. That's how I always ran my business. So that's how you know you have someone with integrity, if that's how they operate. And on the selling side, it's the same thing, guys. Like as a selling agent, as a listing agent, you don't have as many reasons to be pushy, but obviously their goal is to get the house sold, right? One red flag that I would say you can watch out for as an agent being pushy is just wanting to accept anything and everything that comes in offer-wise. Like they just want to get the house sold so bad that they don't care how much the offer's for, they don't care what the contingencies are, they're just like, sign it. Right? And like I said earlier, it's good if your listing agent points out some changes that you need to make before listing, but they shouldn't be major changes. We're not talking about renovating the whole house and spending tens of thousands of dollars. We're mainly talking about, you know, damage control and cleaning the place up and making it look as appealing as possible. More things like that. Sure, you might want to do some work. There might be some painting and some new carpeting that might be necessary, things like that. But we're talking cheap stuff. Now, this next point is a good reason not to hire somebody, but unfortunately, it's one that you probably won't know until it's too late. And that is, they don't know how to negotiate. Now, they say here a knowledgeable agent can tell you about every potential concession at your disposal and help you lobby for one. They have expert knowledge in local housing trends and the ability to rattle off data points, blah, 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 and help you get the best price on a house. But they say if your real estate agent is not giving you the proper expert advice or helping you assess the risk and the upside, you've got a bad one. Now, like I said, you're not going to know this until it's too late, right? Once you're already in the thick of it with an agent, that's when you're going to realize that they're not good at their job. Now, I will say there are some situations where you just can't negotiate because somebody involved is not willing to. Like, there have been a few situations that I've seen being a buyer's agent where the seller of a property just would not flex on the price, guys. And you know, the buyer always wants to get a deal, right? They never want to pay full price for a house. No one ever does. But sometimes you just can't make it work because some sellers are so stubborn. And you know, this usually applies to new listings where they just listed the house less than a week ago and they just don't want to take anything less than what they have it listed for. A lot of times they have to wait it out a couple of months and learn the hard way that they should have taken that offer that they got initially. But they don't know that at the time and they think they know better. But that unfortunately can make your real estate agent look like they don't know how to negotiate the deal. Like, well, they couldn't even get me, you know, a $10,000 discount off of this listing. You know, how good of an agent can they really be? Well, it might not be their fault because the seller of that listing just wasn't willing to flex. Or it could be twofold, that maybe the seller is willing to flex, but the listing agent is playing hardball, and maybe they had their own buyer lined up, and maybe they didn't want to see the seller flex, you know, so that's the other problem. You can have the best buyer's agent in the world, but if they're interested in buying a house that's represented by the worst listing agent in the world, then they might not still be able to make that negotiation happen. So you're going to kind of have to use your own judgment on that one and decide for yourself if you think they're doing all that they can for you every time you submit an offer and you're trying to get the house. But if you have a couple of failed attempts and you know you're getting more the feeling that it's their fault than the actual price that you're offering, then it might be time to look for somebody else. Now, I want to go over a couple more things here before we go. I just want to show you some things that I'm seeing that show you the level of desperation right now on why it should be easy to make a deal and you shouldn't be having negotiation problems. Because take a look at this little excerpt from a listing I was looking at the other day, guys. Additional $50K price reduction. Reduced, and seller must sell. And at the bottom they say, honestly, a great buy with a very motivated seller. Okay, clearly the seller is beyond motivated. They are desperate and they have to sell. That's the situation here. So it shouldn't be that hard to be able to buy a property like this. And that's where the negotiation comes in, right? You need to have an agent that can negotiate the deal where, like, okay, you guys already lowered the price 50K and apparently you're desperate to get out of this house. How desperate are you? You know, can we go lower? You know, your agent should be working to get you the best possible deal on that sale. And when you have listings like that one, it should be very easy. But sometimes it's not always that easy because sometimes you're in an area where it's low inventory and, you know, you have 5 or 6, 7 offers on that same property. That's when the negotiation power really comes in handy. And in that case, you need to have an agent that knows how to craft a very clever offer where you're probably not going to be offering much less on the price, but you are going to be offering a few different concessions that sellers in the area will typically accept. Now, another thing I saw recently with the housing market is that the home builders have been slowing down dramatically because the home sales are off so much. Even with all the incentives and all the deals that home builders are giving, they're still seeing their sales numbers drop, okay? And I want to show you guys this email I got as a real estate agent. They send you these things about how much commission they're offering. Check this out. Earn a 4, 5, or 6% realtor commission. This is available on move-in ready spec homes. And basically, the more houses you sell, the higher the commission you get. If you make 1 sale, it's 4%. You make 2 sales, it's 5%. You make 3 sales, it's 6%. So I would actually add as a bonus for everybody who made it this far, that this is a 5th thing you want to watch out for. You as the buyer are never going to see these emails, right? You're never going to see the amount of commission or incentives being offered to your agents, especially when it comes to these home builder offers. And they're notorious for offering way higher commissions than you would ever get paid buying a resale home. So selling new construction is actually very lucrative for real estate agents. It always has been, probably will always be. So you especially need to be wary if you are looking at new construction homes and you have an agent that's, number one, being pushy, which already is red flag number one, that they're trying to push you into buying a home. But number two, recognize that their financial motive for doing so could be anything beyond helping you buy a house. Maybe that's the third one they're going to sell in this development, and now they're going to get a 6% commission on all of them instead of just the 5%. So that's a big motivator for them to push you into buying this house, even if it's not the right fit for you. And really, guys, I could just go on and on about all the different horror stories and all the different things I've seen people do over the years to push people into getting deals, all of the sneaky things that agents will do. But this video has already run long enough, and I feel like that's enough for most people to digest for now. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I will see you next time with the sunglasses back on. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.